not know. I did not know that these numbers were so alarming. You say, quote, we lose over 100 people a day to suicide. That's nationally. For each death, there are 25 failed attempts. We lose one veteran every 65 minutes. 1 in 25. You mean to suicide, you mean?
Yes.
One veteran every 65 minutes to suicide?
We lose more veterans to suicide than we're losing in combat right now. If over 100 people take their life today, one-fourth of them will be veterans.
You say 1 in 25 teens here in the United States will attempt suicide in the next 12 months. 1 in 25 will try suicide?
Yes.
I'm stunned at these numbers. It's that is suicide, the 10th leading cause of death here in the United States. It's the third leading. Listen to this. It's the third leading suicide, third leading cause of death for people 15 to 24, which is where you were. Why is it that 15 to 24? Why is it? Is that just because? I don't. Why is that?
I can only speak from my experience of suicide, and no suicide is different. But looking back, I believe it had something to do with almost the teenagers, young people feel almost immortal. There was this immortal. I honestly believe that I was going to pick this gun up, aim it at my heart, and suicide was nothing more. Dying was nothing more than a means to an end. It was a speed bump to get to heaven. I was just going to I was going to get away from what I thought was an unlivable life and wake up in heaven. What I didn't appreciate and had no experience with was that dying part. And when I realized that, and I talk to people who are suicidal and so forth, I'll say, it's like having a baby. Moms, they think they understand what it is to give birth. They've never given birth to a child. If you're a father, I have 3 children. Went to my wife to the midwife classes. I sat through the classes. I got the literature and so forth. And I stood there and I watched my children when I watched what my wife was going through. And I realized that there was nothing that could have prepared me for what it means to give birth, or a mom the first time the contractions strike. There's nothing to prepare. Well, suicide was no different. I had no way of really understanding what I had just thrown my life into, because I had never died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And yet people are going to throw their lives away and having no experience with what they are just about to do.
By the way, were you put in a psychiatric hospital or anything after your suicide attempt?
Sure, I was. I did see a psychiatrist for about 9 months. I know when I was laying in the hospital, I was fearful that the police were going to come and arrest me for killing myself. They told me in the hospital it would have been better had I had my legs cut off and my body burned in the fire than have these scars from suicide, because those scars people could see and understand, but they wouldn't understand why this dark, disturbed teenager shot himself. And I found that to be very true over my life. It was, people called names. They offered me advice on how to shoot myself next time, just so in case I didn't miss. It evokes very strong, stigmatic type conversations or these ideas we could save more people through hope, as opposed to condemnation.
We're talking to Jim Atkisson, who's written a book called From Suicide to Life. Jim, let me just go back to what you just said. So the response that you get from a lot of people is one, very little compassion, it sounds like, but mostly anger and even insults. And obviously the kind of, I don't know what kind of person, says, well, next time let me show you how to do it so you do it right. Why does your failed suicide attempt provoke such strong, visceral, angry reactions from people, do you think?
It's taken me a long time to come to that understanding, but I finally figured it out. It has to do with suicide. Many people have known somebody to have lost to suicide, and I believe when they're confronted with me, I became the whipping board for their anger and their hurt, unknowingly. They had an uncle, the uncle had a friend. Oh, my gosh, the friend left the wife and children behind. How dare you people take your life? And so I became that person that for many years had to listen to other people's anger and guilt and frustration, because once they came in, the contact, when they saw the bullet hole in the middle of my chest and the scars, and they, well, how did you get those? Well, I picked up a rifle and shot myself when I was a kid. Oh, my goodness. Well, you people, and they weren't really understanding what they were doing. But it took a long time, and it was through my books that I understood why they do that. And now it doesn't bother me more because now I have, but when I was 17 years old trying to dodge those fiery darts, it was a different story.
We're out of time here today. Fascinating. What would you say to somebody who's trying to counsel somebody right now or help somebody who's suicidal? Jim, what do they need to do?
I would take them back to the thought they have no experience with a violent death or any kind of death at all, and that they're really not equipped for the things and issues that are going to arise should they continue down that road. It's only a matter of time before they take it always becomes one crisis away from taking their life. I would urge them to contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, network with local leaders in their community, their mental health, and just, I think this can be stopped. And most people, like I said, aren't born with a desire to take their life, so there's no reason why it should be as bad as it is today. Most
people show signs of crying out like you did if people just pay attention?
Yes.
Okay.
They do.
All right. But Jesus Christ saved you from your death.
He did.
Okay.
And your book is a testimony of that, and the picture on the front is a door opening to from a dark room into the light of God's life.
Hey, and for all those Gideons who hand out Bibles all over
that's exactly right.
the world, and here in America, here's an example of someone who a Gideon Bible was laying on his counter there, her dresser, before he went out to commit suicide, and it spoke to him.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, thanks so much for your time. Again, give your website one more time, please.
Sure. At www.fromsuicidetolife.com.
Jim Atkisson, Atkisson, from the great state of Maryland, has been our guest. Thanks, Jim, for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, we wish you the best.